AFC North, we're going to go through the division like we normally do, starting at the bottom. We're going to give you all their predicted records, how we think they're going to finish, and then we will have the superlatives for the division, the MVP, the Offensive Player of the Year, the Defensive Player of the Year, the Breakout Player, and the Coach of the Division. Let's go.
If you listened 2 weeks ago, we did the first iteration of 20 questions. We did a Pittsburgh edition. And if you remember listening to that, if you're regular, you're kind of going to know where this is going with the number 4 team in the division. That's the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah.
I did a rant 3 weeks ago now that said I'm basically out on this team. I don't think they're a playoff team. I don't view them as a real, legitimate, serious football operation at this point in time. I just don't. I don't think they handle. I mean, the draft has been solid. I don't think they handle player development very well. I think their acquisition in terms of free agency is weak. I don't think Mike Tomlin, at this point in time, is a top 10 coach in football. I don't think he has the cachet he used to. I don't think he has the player management he used to. I just don't trust a lot about this football team. I know it's going to be a hot take. I'm still going to root for them. I hope I'm wrong. I know people are going to be coming at me, especially Steeler fans. I'm aware. I deserve it. That's fine. I'm just out on this team. I don't see the future, and I don't like the quarterback position, and we know how important the quarterback position is.
The problems with this team are just starting to shine through. It's things that people in Pittsburgh have been kind of, pointing out as the years have gone by, like, hey, this is going to be a problem. Hey, this is a problem. And now they're all kind of surfacing at the same time. And it's a bit overwhelming. I think the Steelers as an organization, they have to take a very deep introspective look at themselves, especially during the season and after the season, on what adjustments need to be made. Big decisions need to be made. And you need to break some things down and rebuild it.
I would agree. Number 3 here, and this one is, you could argue me into switching these teams, but I would say the Browns are a tick above Pittsburgh. I think they're a more consistent team, and despite my disdain or doubts about Deshaun Watson, we know he's a better quarterback than either of the 2 quarterbacks on the roster in Pittsburgh. They're going to have a better offensive line.
Yep.
I like Amari Cooper's better than any wide receiver we have on the roster. Their offensive line's better. And outside of TJ Watt, I think every other spot on defense, they're stronger. You could argue me into safety with Minka, but yeah, I think the Browns are a better football team. But even given that, I don't think the ceiling's very high for them. I think 9-8 is their ceiling because of the Browns, and the Browns are going to be the Browns. So you could argue me into them being 4th because, again, they're just going to be the Browns. So they could screw it up. But I think on paper, this is a better roster than Pittsburgh.
Yeah, and I think this division in particular is very clear cut. You're going to have your 2 competitors up top, obviously your Ravens and your Bengals. We'll get to those. But then the Browns and the Steelers, you kind of know that they're not going to compete for much. If they do, it's going to be some fringe wild card that they're going to sneak into because these 3 teams lost by less than 1.5 spread, and this team won, and then this team tied, and
it's going to be one of those
It's
crazy tiebreakers where you need the Jaguars to tie the Titans, and you need
Trevor Lawrence
to one team to win, but the other one to lose. It's wild.
You need Trevor Lawrence to stumble out of bounds and step on the 20-yard line itself.
Yeah, of course.
There's so many little things, and they're going to go in, and they're going to disappoint, and they're going to lose. So both of these 2 teams, they feel right at 3 and 4, respectively.
I agree. Number 2, the Bengals. I do worry a little bit about Burrow's health. The Joe Mixon being gone is a concern, although I think they'll be fine in general. I think running back's a fairly replaceable position. Offensive line's always been a concern, but you do get T. Higgins back with the franchise tag this year. Jamar Chase is still there. I think 11-6 feels a little conservative because I'm going to plan for about 3 to 4 games that Joe is going to miss for some reason. And I think Jake Browning will be serviceable, but not win as many games as Joe would have if Joe was in there. And the one redeeming thing about the Bengals this year is they have a last place schedule, right? So they get, they'll get the Raiders anyway, but they're going to get the Commanders and the Panthers, and they'll play. They're going to play the Giants anyway. But my point being, there's a lot of W's on that schedule against some bottom feeder, right? The Titans, the Broncos, right? They can rack up some wins here
and get the momentum moving, going.
Yeah, and then if they can go 500 against winning teams and then beat the teams they should, they're going to be a good football team.
I agree. I love the Bengals too.
Number 1 here, the Ravens at 12-5. It is a tough schedule, but I think with the addition of Derrick Henry, I just don't know, how do you game plan for Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson?
You don't.
I just don't. I don't know how that's going to look, against opposing defenses. this team's going to be fun to watch. I think Lamar's fantastic. He wins almost 80% of his games, when he starts for the Ravens. So it's really hard for me to believe that they're going to add pieces and then get worse under Lamar Jackson and John Harbaugh. I'm sorry. I just can't believe that.
Yeah.
That's not realistic in my eyes.
No, they are the main competitor coming out of this division. I'd say we talked about it briefly, I guess, 3 weeks ago now, when we discussed Lamar Jackson. Their Super Bowl window is shrinking, but this is kind of like the last little bit of hope for it, where you still have to see Lamar kind of prove it in the playoffs, but he could. But now you have Derrick Henry, you have a great running back there, so
they probably have this year, maybe next year, yeah. It's how many more disappointing playoffs can they have? I think is what you're saying. That's what we talked about a couple weeks ago, where it's like, at a certain point, you feel like they're going to have to get over the hump, or they're just never going to.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
And that's this year.
A little bit of
I guess maybe next.
Yeah, a little shit or get off the pot type of thing.
Yeah.
Right.
All right, so let's go superlatives. Top players in the division. We're going to start with MVP.
We got to run back through it again, though.
Oh, okay. Yep. The Ravens at 12-5, Bengals in second at 11-6, Browns at 9-8, and the Steelers in the basement at 8-9.
Okay, so like you said, superlatives.
Now to MVP.
Lamar Jackson. Yeah, for all his shortcomings, especially against Pittsburgh specifically, Lamar Jackson is a very good NFL quarterback. He gets better from the pocket seemingly each year. 2-time MVP of the league, not just the division. By the way, they don't hand those out. It's only us here. But yeah, Lamar, winning almost 80% of his games as a starter, Lamar Jackson is the MVP of the division.
All right, offensive player of the division.
I do think Joe Burrow is going to come back and play really well. Like I said, I worry about him staying healthy for a full 17, so that may impact the stats. But I think when he plays, I think he's going to play 14, maybe 15 games. And if that's the case, I think he's going to be fantastic in every game he plays.
All right, defensive player of the year.
TJ Watt. I think he's the best defensive player in football, not just in the division. I think he's going to be the defensive player of... He's going to be in the running for Defensive Player of the Year for the entire league. I did say he wouldn't lead the league in sacks, which almost as an edge rusher disqualifies you from that discussion, but I think he'll be in it at least.
Okay. Breakout player.
I'm going to go Pat Freiermuth. I think in the offensive scheme that Arthur Smith is bringing to the Steelers, run first, play action, a lot of stuff over the middle, which I know it's a concern for Russ and being able to see over the middle. But I think if him and Muth can start... If they can find windows, in the middle of the field, I think Pat Freiermuth's going to have a fantastic year.
Just find ways to utilize them. Coach of the division.
I'm actually going to go Zack Taylor.
Explain that one.
Yeah, I know a lot of people are like, well, what about Harbaugh? You have so many good coaches in the division. Stefanski's actually won Coach of the Year of the entire league. I think it's because Joe's going to get hurt. I think they're going to face some adversity. I think they're going to be in a bunch of tough games, and they're going to find a way to win a lot of tough football games. I do. For example, so they have, let's see here. So they have the Eagles, the Chiefs, Chiefs, the Ravens, and the Cowboys. I think those are three really tough games. Wait, Bengals, Chiefs,
Ravens.
Eagles, Ravens. Oh yeah, four. Those are four really tough games, and I think all four are going to come down to the wire. And I actually think they're going to go probably 2-2 or 3-1. I think it's going to come down to coaching and Joe Burrow. So I'm going to go Zack Taylor. I think in those tight moments, he's going to push the envelope, go for it, put it in Joe's hands. I think you're going to actually see him start to really put himself in the discussion and firmly in it as a top 10 coach in the NFL.
Okay. Wow.
That's my prediction.
Love it. Run back through.
MVP Lamar, Offensive Player of the Year Joe Burrow, TJ Watt, DPOY, Breakout Player Pat Freiermuth, and Coach of the Year Zack Taylor.
There we go. That's it. That's the AFC North. Guys, this will be posted everywhere. Go check it out on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, everywhere you can find the show. Follow, subscribe, and like it. We appreciate that.